state of Maryland,
and support the Constitution and laws thereof,
and support the Constitution and laws thereof,
and that I will,
and that I will,
to the best of my skill and judgment,
to the best of my skill and judgment,
diligently and faithfully,
diligently and faithfully,
without partiality or prejudice,
without partiality or prejudice,
execute the office of
execute the office of member of the Board of Campus,
according to the Constitution and laws of this state.
according to the Constitution and laws of this state. Thank you.
Okay. Everybody
Okay,
has to sign. Do you want the book over there?
ladies first, sign the book.
Is that you? Just resume?
Yes.
Okay. Sign right here.
Okay. That's what-
Just your name. Yeah.
Draft.
Diane?
In my experience, it's really hard to do.
You'll send it to her?
What's that?
What rotated?
No, we do. You don't have to.
Diane, you left-handed?
That takes
I
6
am.
months.
Oh, that worked out well.
It did, yeah. I'm
That's a
Andy,
name,
actually.
That's even
Oh,
better.
that's cool. Predominantly write with my left and do most stuff here, but I can write with my right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. 'Cause
There you
know
go.
Yeah, because when I.
Somewhere it
talked
says
to you
name.
yesterday, I didn't have those 2 columns.
Okay,
That's
well,
my, that's my
Thank you.
question.
so there's your master list. Oh,
Thank you.
see if I can keep on.
I'm guessing you're supporting several economies. How is your Uber driver doing?
Something's wrong with the way.
Okay.
Nope, you don't have to.
I'm gonna call him that from now on,
Thank you.
but I am gonna represent him. Okay, okay, you don't need the address. Okay. Oh, he wants his own pen.
Right here, sign where it says name, you do not.
Sign here.
Yep.
Bring it here one of the times when we're both here, I'll take a
Okay, so you fill in the rest.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Out of my car.
It's fine.
I mean,
Okay,
what
I
you
do,
need is-
you want to be on the,
look. Right.
Where it says name to sign, I do not need that. Thank you.
Oh, I need to take notes regardless of whether I use the camera. And whether I use the camera, and, I don't think it's possible to get us all on that.
no, that's why if you're gonna make observations, I was just gonna have people actually go sit in one place. So the public could hear, but
In most meetings that I go to, people just have their own cameras.
if you all can figure out how to do it without the feedback that we always get when we have multiple computers going on at the same time,
You have to turn off the sound.
more power to you.
Okay.
That's fine.
I'm gonna get my own computer because that's how I take notes. But
Right now.
right. But apparently, in order, he was gonna have us all like move in order to give our observations and only have the camera going in one direction. And I'm thinking that, most of the meetings that I attend that are hybrid in nature, people have their own computers and their own cameras. And you turn the sound off.
But when they're in the same room?
Yeah.
Oh,
But you turn the sound off
That
because.
completes it. Do you need any?
I guess photo or picture.
I'll do it right now. Thanks.
I guess
that'll be
so.
good.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
have one board member on screen and not in the.
Yeah.
I know how to turn it.
Okay.
That's about it.
Right. You guys are busy. Have a wonderful day.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye, thank you.
Okay.
Lisa, where they have you located?
I am everywhere.
Okay. I mean, you fixed it. Literally.
Okay, we are,
Sit wherever you want me to sit. I'll sit. Sure, I'll sit
Grab a
next to
chair.
my friend.
Then I
Diane.
hear Unless you want to sit down.
Well, that's a good point. That's a good point. I shouldn't be quite that accommodating.
Okay.
Right, not another room. Yes,
What if-
yes.
So I hear that we'll have you both.
All on screen.
And then you can all be on
Okay.
one screen.
Okay. If that'll work.
Because we haven't done this setup before, do we want to test the audio?
Go ahead, and I think we're good.
Why don't we have Nahid, David, Kevin speak so that we get a sound check?
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Testing one, two.
Speak up.
Speak up. Testing 1, 2, 3.
Checking 1, 2, 3.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Anna?
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Check, check, check.
Okay.
You would be different.
Of course he would.
So if you could guys identify yourselves when you speak, just so that obviously you don't have your names underneath on each member.
Yeah. Calling meeting in order. Okay, let's see. Election of officer.
Madam President,
Yes,
I would like to make a motion to nominate the current board president, Nahid Hosseini, as president of the Montgomery County Board of
Chair,
Canvassers.
chair.
Chair of the
Canvass.
Montgomery County Canvass.
I second that. Diane Dillon. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Madam President, I would like to make a further motion that to nominate our worthy secretary, Mr. David Naiman, as secretary of the canvass.
I second that. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you,
Thank you.
Alex. Thanks so much. Okay. We have quorum. Election day observation. We had a small problem in Silver Spring, which was done very quickly, and I went there. It was light, like 15, 20 people waiting to vote. Everything was quiet and peaceful. And the problem was solved before even anybody got there. They did it by phone. Allison, everybody was involved. Thank you, Allison. I know Mr. Porter Attorney even get involved in everything. That's his headquarters, his state.
What was the issue?
Over there, no, was the poll book.
The final upload of.
They couldn't do that.
Which location?
Silver Spring.
Or where in Silver? Civic.
Civic.
Civic. Okay.
Or anybody else have some other? Yes,
Yeah, I heard that there was a problem, Alan Bano here. There's a problem at the Argyle Middle School with a dumpster that was blocking the voting entrance. It was also on the handicap parking spaces. And Kevin, you can explain how you dealt with that, please.
Sure. So the roamer went out and looked at the situation. In fact, the word dumpsters, it's under construction, that school is. So we rerouted the voters to go through the main entrance, so the handicap, there would be accessible handicap parking, and they wouldn't have to walk in between the dumpsters. So that seemed to be an easy enough solution to that problem.
anybody else have?
Oh, yeah, I have a few observations, but let me just clarify. So what have we done about the dumpster at Argyle?
The dumpsters are there, but the way Argyle's set up, they basically were entering into the side of the building. We're now having them go through the main entrance to the building and going into the polling place.
So they're entering through a different location, and how close is the front door to the polling place?
It's around the corner.
Okay.
After we're done, I can show you
Okay,
that
yeah,
area.
because while I've been sitting here, I got texted a picture of Argyle with the dumpsters and the whole bit. So
I can show you pictures. too.
Yeah. Okay,
Okay.
cool. Okay, so a few observations. My first, well, first of all, everyone can appreciate what a wonderful morning I had. Today was the day that my car battery died and I couldn't get out of the driveway. And so my son is without his car for the day. And hopefully I'll have it back to him before he wakes up. So.
He's a teenager.
No, he's not a teenager, but he sleeps well. That was a joke. I'm sure he's up by now, you know, et cetera.
Not
But the fact that I have his card, that's not a joke.
So you think you have the bad day?
Yeah. I mean, well, anyway, okay. So my first stop was at Tilden Middle School, which is a combined precinct at the moment. And you guys may remember that Tilden Middle School used to be located on Old Georgetown Road and moved, I believe it was in 2021 to its former location in the neighborhood on Tilden Lane. And whatever our staff used to set up the room, it was just way wrong. And the setup called for the entrance to the cafeteria. The cafeteria is at the back of the building, and they called for people to enter from the entrance that is furthest from parking on either side and is closest to the basketball courts and tennis courts. It was just completely wrong. They rearranged, but they didn't rearrange completely because they had set up the room and it was 9:30 at night last night, and they did some rearranging and they haven't come in from the beginning. I felt like I got my daily steps in to get from the front door to the cafeteria. Please, let's look at using the gymnasium for future, because the gymnasium, which I'm told is air conditioned, and remember that my wife used to work there. So I think I have a good source. The gymnasium is right near the front door, so it would be much easier to use. But at the very least, I mean, the floor plan for this room in the cafeteria included a wall that does not exist. So I don't know whether they were using the cafeteria from Old Georgetown Road, or whether they had an old floor plan for this room. But whatever it was just and it ended up being a significant difference from the entrance to the room. The roamer did an excellent job, and I believe his last name was Smart, because we agreed that he was. I want to say his first name was Andrew, but okay, good. That's my son's name, so I should remember. Anyway, he did an excellent job of helping them to deal with this, but it was obviously a lot to deal with. What I heard was that they only had about 3 or 4 voters at 7 o'clock. I'm about to tell you about the second place I went that had more, but no one is reporting huge lines or whatever. My second stop was Flora Singer Elementary School, which at the moment is also a combined polling place because Oakland Terrace is under construction. And I went there intentionally knowing that was going on. Just by complete coincidence, I saw Congressman Raskin and Senator Van Hollen, who were both meeting there this morning, and a variety of other elected officials and such. Everything was very orderly. The election judges seemed to have their act together. They were missing a cord to their back printer, which they have reported in, but hopefully we can make sure that they get it as soon as they can. They ran numbers, and I believe in their first roughly 2 hours, they had, I want to say it was either 81 or 87 voters in their first 2 hours. They had somewhere between 5 and 10 voters when they opened at 7 o'clock. They had plenty of staff. Tilden had some staff that at the last minute canceled, which of course is always an issue that we deal with. I made a statement to the electioneers that apparently was incorrect, for which I apologize, but I want to make sure now that the information I have now is correct. The statement I made to them was that I did not believe that mail-in ballots could be returned to the polling places, if they had to go to drop box. I was subsequently informed that the polling places have a special bag for this purpose. So my information perhaps is old. I'm going to blame my bump on the head, if nothing else. But do we know, did the law change in this category? Did the regulation change, or did we just change? I mean, what is it that allows us to accept mail-in ballots at the polls? Because I know for the longest time that was not allowed.
I think the state's practice changed.
Is it permitted by statute? You know?
Or is it- I don't believe the statute has.
Hmm.
I can tell you it's not in law,
It's not in law
It's not
either way.
but I was aware that there are bags.
Okay.
Change.
I
And are there bags across the state, Senator Kagan? Do you know?
My understanding is that there will be, or are, yes.
Okay. Well, I mean, obviously, the most important thing is that everyone's treated the same and all that. And my misstatement, I didn't know, obviously. I was not aware. I've been following the legal changes pretty closely. I wasn't aware of one relating to that. I still think that your ballots are, well, we want to take ballots ever we can, but I'm, as I've said many, many times throughout 2020 till the present, I am extraordinarily impressed by the fact that our board runs its own mail system for the election. And Boris's stats show that we collect more ballots by Dropbox than we collect by all the other means combined. And it's done efficiently, and someday we're going to get to the point where they get beat in more efficiently, but I'm impressed that we're able to do that. In any event, I did not know, but now we can say for the record that voters can return their ballots to the polls. That's actually good in terms of not having them vote, try to vote provisionally and all of that. I did get a call this morning that there are voters who received a sample ballot that told them to report to a polling place that was under construction.
Yes. Would you like me to address that?
Yes, please.
That is true. They were told to go to Watkins Mill, and for whatever reason, this is one of the, there should be a Montgomery Village Middle School. For whatever reason, there was a glitch in MD voters that I assume their voter notification card in their sample ballot told them to go to Watkins Mill. And that's, if you'll recall, that Montgomery Village Middle School absorbed, I think, 3 of those sort of carve out locations for redistricting. So after we spoke, David, we have signage up at Watkins Mill telling them that they need to go to Montgomery Village Elementary School.
Okay, now you
Middle school.
Middle school, yes.
Middle school.
And do we know if that's the only instance in which this happened? Because obviously, if our sample ballot is sending people to the wrong places, at the very least, we need a sign, if not a person, to direct people to where they need to go.
To my knowledge, this is the only situation in which this has happened. I learned of this morning myself. We've been researching it, and we will certainly let the board know if it turns out that there was any broader issue here. But to my knowledge, this is isolated to these. I think it was 270.
240, 270.
No, we never heard
The
of
issue that we have had, which we always have, which is every time we have school construction and we move to a different location, we have voters that go to where they're used to going, and they haven't looked.
Right.
So signage is being put out at those locations.
All of
as-
them,
Yes, where the construction, so that they can be alerted that they need to go to their correct polling place.
I thought we had discussed that months ago, that we were going to have those signs. Are we just putting them up now?
We're just putting them up now, yes.
I'm glad we're putting them up now.
Mhm.
I'm disappointed that they weren't up last night, because we could avoid a lot of this. I also got a text from someone who said that they were at Gaithersburg High School, and a voter who votes at South Lake Elementary ordinarily came to them and said they didn't know where they were supposed to vote. I don't know, because the person who texted me did not know whether that voter received a sample ballot that told them to vote at South Lake, which is also the Montgomery Village. I don't, but, and again, I definitely understand voters are creatures of habit like we all are, and maybe going to the places they know. I think it's a much bigger problem for us if we're telling them to go to the wrong place than if they go based on habit. And if we do have these signs in prominent places, that helps. And if we had more people, I would say we should have people, but I realize we do not have that.
These are large, those are signs as big as those signs on the wall.
Oh, okay.
That's what they're right on the front door.
Okay, good. That's very helpful.
Okay.
So, and I think that's that. I did have one other question that came up that I want to make sure, because that the information I got was accurate. A voter who has moved to Maryland within the last 3 weeks and wants to register through same-day registration. It moved to Maryland from a different jurisdiction. I was told that with proof of residence, regardless of their duration of living in Maryland, they are eligible to register to vote. Is that accurate?
Well, there are two parts of it. So I'm gonna give you the legal answer and then I'm gonna give you the practical answer.
Okay,
So the legal answer is no, because you have to have otherwise been qualified to register to vote. And to be otherwise qualified to register to vote, you had to have been here in Maryland, in Montgomery County, within 21 days of the election.
I'm sorry, when you say meaning that you have to have been here before 21 days?
Because voter registration closed 21 days before the election. So
Well,
you had to be
but same day
otherwise-
registration. What I'm saying is that if I'm a DC resident who moved to Montgomery County in June, and I want to go to the polls today and do same day registration, and I have a lease and I have a utility bill or whatever it is that I have, can I register to vote same day, and is that legal?
By statute, no. But that person's gonna be given a provisional ballot and we're not gonna have any idea when they move to Maryland. That's the practical part of it.
But you're saying there's a statute that says that you have to have lived here for 21 days in
You have to
order.
be otherwise
in-
qualified to register.
Because doesn't every jurisdiction have a residency requirement? So people don't just hop
We
across
can
the
talk about
line
it
and.
more.
Yeah, and if you can send me the statute or the site,
I have looked it up.
yeah, that would be, that would be helpful.
But if you-
The person who's asking does not want to do anything that the law does not allow. So, I mean, literally, I spoke to the voter. The voter, said, am I allowed to do this? And I said, I would ask the source. But
could call our
Call
center too. Kevin was there too.
yes, they could call a call center, but instead they were talking to me.
Yeah, of course.
And if people are asking me questions, I try to answer them because I am a roving call center. That's what we all do, and I'm sure you do when you go to the polls as well. I'm not going to tell someone at the polls when I'm standing in front of them to call the call center with a question like that. It's very
No,
technical in nature.
I think it's just for general consumption, offering the fact that
There
these
is a
questions
call.
can be answered if anybody calls the call center. So anybody listening knows now that they can call you, and they can also get that information from the call center.
Might you offer the call center number while you're talking?
Yeah, that's a
about it
good
while we're
idea.
watching?
What is the call center number?
Voters should be calling our main number, 240-777-8500. We do have a
Okay.
call center that is a technical help desk that is for our election judges.
Got it. So it's 240-777-8500.
And the people up front are answering and they'll take messages and get back.
Okay,
I mean,
that's
if-
good.
If it's a technical issue,
Right. I mean, this one struck me as being more technical than most.
it is.
And so especially if you're telling me that the proof we collect is not necessarily the entirety of what the statute provides, that sounds like it's really technical, even for lawyers. So
You know,
Is
this
one of
person
the
moved here?
I do not. But I know that this person wanted to do things on the up and up, and that's why they were asking. They weren't just doing it, they,
No, that's
right.
they
That's
were,
just one
they
more-
were asking.
one more of the many pitfalls of same-day registration.
Did you visit the call center or?
Well,
call
I would
center?
say that it's not necessarily a pitfall of same-day registration, because if we were to tell our same-day registrars that we have a residence requirement of X number of days, then at the very least, they could be asking the voters, when did you move to Montgomery County?
Right.
My understanding is at the
That would be a
moment,
good
at the moment, they're not.
Yeah.
So,
We should talk about that.
and I don't know what the state is requiring, because obviously we don't want to have different rules for Montgomery County residents than for the rest of the state. But as you know, Diana, I'm a law and order guy. I want to follow the law. And if
Oh,
we
yeah,
do,
we're obviously
yeah.
on the same page.
yes,
here.
if we have a residence requirement, then we should enforce it. But the same way everyone else does.
Right.
Right. And I
agree.
spoke to Nikki about this morning. Point number 5 on my lessons learned is same day registration, 21 days ahead of time, training issue.
Oh, yeah.
So
Oh, good.
we'll incorporate that for the general.
Okay, yeah, in this instance, the information that I received was not from the same day registrar, it was from here. So
Did you visit the call center?
I have not visited the call
Yes,
center.
as a matter of fact,
Have you
should go
visited,
let
have
the
have
board-
you, have you visited the call center?
Yes,
Okay, good.
I'm just saying, just visit it. It's really
Okay.
impressive.
Have
Like
you,
a
have you
war zone.
visited the ballot sorting equipment?
Oh, come on, David. I'm just saying.
And I've seen that of
since you're
everybody.
here,
I think
go
everybody
visit
should
them.
visit the ballot sorting equipment if you haven't seen it.
People are calling.
After this.
And they
Yes.
were here until 11 o'clock last night and they opened it
Yeah.
very, very early. So it was
Good, I'll go,
impressive.
Senator
trying-
Kagan, that includes you too. I think you should see the ballot sorting equipment.
I have seen it in other states,
Okay,
actually, but I
finish.
have not seen it in Maryland.
Do you want to say something, Senator Kagan?
Oh, yes, please. Thank you. For the record, Cheryl Kagan, very proud to be the senator for Gaithersburg and Rockville, District 17, and the vice chair of the Senate committee that oversees all election legislation.
You just cover the logo while you're on the.
I'm
Oh,
not
yeah.
here to support members. I'm here as a human and as a senator. That's it. I mean, feels like
It's not a poll, we're not.
I'm not, no, we're
Okay.
not in a
I'm
polling
just-
place. Fair question,
Well, we're-
fair question. No, thank you. So, so first off, I want to thank board members. I want to thank our election judges, our staffers, and everyone who is making this work. I've been getting reports from around the state about election judges having COVID and low turnout and delayed openings. And thanks to Allison McLaughlin and the whole team and you guys with your oversight and leadership, things seem to be pretty minor in the hiccups here in Montgomery County. And then the last thing I just want to mention, and I know that the board is very familiar with this, but maybe some folks watching from home are not aware that we are used to getting election results on election night, and that will not happen. It's not going to happen tonight. It's not going to happen tomorrow, and that mail-in ballots cannot be touched until Thursday morning. And canvas provisional ballots will be next week. We're going to have long delays. And that is not any reflection of our local election staffers. It is because my legislation was vetoed by Governor Hogan in kind of a perplexing way, and the state board chose not to bring a lawsuit. So there is nothing hanky-panky, there's no fraud, there are no problems. So it's just going to take a long time, and people should be patient. If there is a landslide election or no opposition, we will find that out very quickly, and you can probably count on tonight's ballots or something, or tomorrow. But in contested elections like governor, like Montgomery County executive, we're going to be a while. And the board has set as its goal August 12th to certify. I suspect that we'll have indications earlier than that. But again, I just want to acknowledge that and make sure that nobody has any concerns or any cynicism. It's really important that we defend our democracy and our excellent voting methods. Happy to take any
Thank you
questions,
so
and then I will get back to the polls.
Well, I just want to take the opportunity to say I would love your support in trying to get the word out that in order to expedite final results of these races, if we could encourage more people to avail themselves of all of the in-person voting that is available, maybe do a little less migrating to the mail-in, vote in person, and by tonight, those votes are going to be right there.
So yes, as a concept, but it's a little bit of a moot point now because the people have already
Oh,
requested a
well,
mail-in
just
ballot
for
or
the
internet
future.
delivery. But for the future, the expectation and hope is that this mess will be fixed before the general election. And that is urgently needed because the timetable is too tight between November 8th and needing to swear in our elected officials early December. So that's critically important, and I expect we will address it. So, David?
I just wanted to, I just wanted to add to what Senator Kagan said about the canvas. We don't identify who the winners are until we certify the election. We around this table. The media may say different, Senator Kagan may say different, lots of people may say different because they're going to be giving their analysis based on the results. We give our indication, right,
Unofficial, preliminary.
right, unofficial
Perfect.
preliminary
Yeah.
results. We give our results as part of the certification. The other thing that people should know is, because this is a question that I asked at our previous meeting, that the ballots that we count on day one are not from any particular location. They're not from any particular race. And basically, be careful in drawing conclusions from our day one canvas compared to our day two canvas compared to our day three canvas. Maybe a pattern will develop for those who are following patterns. We just keep going until we count all the ballots, and every ballot that is eligible to be counted gets counted. It doesn't matter whether the election is close or not close. This is not the first election where the counting keeps going for weeks after the election. We do that every election. It just happens that this year we may not, the unofficial declarers of elections may not be ready to declare the election until later in the process because of the numbers that use mail-in ballots. And the last thing I would say, with due respect for the preference for in-person voting that Diane has expressed, that I personally am a believer. I voted in person in this particular election. I voted on the ballot marking device so I could see what it was like, because I tried to try all the different types of voting. I've done web delivery, I've done mail,
Right.
I've done them all. But the state law gives voters choices so that they can make voting as convenient as possible for them. Part of the trade-off is how quickly the results come in. I personally don't think that voters necessarily should have to adjust their behavior to make our results come in faster. I think we should adjust our behavior to make the results come in faster. One way we could have done that is if the legislature's bill that was passed had been signed into law. Another way we could have done that is if the State Board of Elections had gone to court and said that we could do this. And then the third way, which I hope is the one that we're going to do for the fall campaign, is that our technology will be more mature and the kinks will have been worked out. Because as I understand it, the ballot sorting equipment is going to be able to help us to do things much more quickly in the fall than what we do now.
David, if I can add, there's a fourth method, which is the governor issuing an executive order, as he did 2 years ago, and allowed our local boards of elections to start processing mail-in ballots 33 days in advance. And he chose not to do that after saying that he supported early counting. So that is something, that's a good option for November as well.
Alan,
Yes, I have a question for Allison. Sam Stoutland, former board president, asked me, when will the results from early voting be announced?
They will be the first results that we'll be uploading tonight. when the polls
8:30
close.
or when?
When the polls close, whenever the state tells us that the last voter in line has voted elsewhere in the state or authorized us to go ahead and upload results.
As long as the poll times aren't extended for some reason anywhere in the state.
There is a lawsuit already being discussed about extending because of delayed openings. Elsewhere in the state.
Where?
Elsewhere in the state. Elsewhere in the state, not in Montgomery
Oh,
County.
got it.
But,
Thank you.
if the past is an indication, if there's a lawsuit elsewhere in the state that keeps them, it holds the results for everyone.
That's what else.
So, right. So it may be that we won't have results at exactly 8 o'clock. It'll be when they tell us we can, because the state can tell us what to release.
Right. There are conversations about delayed opening, so if it was delayed by 34 minutes or something, then keep the polls open for another 34 minutes. at the
And
end of
those
the
people
evening.
vote on provisional.
Don't know
No,
that
I
they
don't
do
think
provisional. Why would that be?
No, I think it's
Kevin
just
has an answer.
because the lawsuit might not have merit.
They vote, there's a designation for them voting during extended hours.
It's neither. It's neither regular nor provisional. It's an extended hours.
Oh,
It's
oh,
a
a
special
whole
category, of extended hours ballots.
I spoke to Sam.
Oh, good. Well, we all know.
We all know, we all learned something. All right, I'm gonna head back to the polls. Thank you so much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator, I just have
Stay
one,
cool out there.
I have one issue I wanted to briefly, I have not reviewed the statutory provisions, the methods by which mail-in ballots lawfully may be determined. If the statute is specific about the ways in which that can be done, it is a little concerning to me that the state board is authorizing a procedure that you and your colleagues in the General Assembly have not authorized. Because you are accountable for the people, and the rules should be made by you or a certain amount of authority. board and local boards, how you would.
Thank you, Alex. I already, while you were talking about it, I already made a note on whether that should be incorporated into legislation next year, because we are gonna get some of the stuff fixed. And we'll have a new governor, and we will certainly have a mess that everyone will want to fix.
And drop boxes
so-
are in the statute.
But
Yes,
not,
but not
No,
the
that's
drop,
right.
but
No,
not the
no,
bags.
not the precinct, not the precinct officials, the mail-in ballots at the polling places
Yeah.
that are not in Dropbox.
That's not authorized
Made
by
it.
statute, it should.
right, so on that, I wanted to suggest, not taking up more time today, because we can't do anything about it, that at our next board meeting, we talk about that very issue.
Well, and let's find out,
In advance of the November election.
and let's
because-
find out from the state board
Yes.
if they believe they have some kind of delegated authority to do this, because, well, I'd like to hear at least what their argument is. I mean, I don't think that they would have just done it and not paid, not asked their lawyer anything.
There's a
So,
new assistant attorney general who's getting his feet wet in all this. So one thing that's possible is clarifying before the general election and then
Right.
statutorily addressing it for next year.
Right,
Happy to hear, you know, I love when I get letters endorsing policy changes, proposed policy changes before I sponsor legislation, so.
Well, and I want to be clear, I'm not arguing for or against it,
Yeah.
but my point is that if the General Assembly has not authorized it, we shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah, no, fair.
because it's got all the requirements that are needed. I have questions that I wanted to bring up. Where exactly is it? There's a limit. You can't be in the polling place unless you presented your identification and you're there for vote, to vote.
There's no identity.
Well, when I'm sorry, not identification. People who are not checking in to vote shouldn't be roaming around the voting place. So I have a question where these are located.
And security,
So-
absolutely, fair
Yeah.
questions to them, totally fair questions.
It needs to be clarified one way or another.
Amen, all things. All right,
okay.
take care, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Take
very
care.
much.
Bye-bye.
Speaking of roaming around, some of the early voting centers had orange tape on the floor indicating arrows to the provisional ballot table.
Oh, clever.
So I voted for including orange tape with all of the things that you send out and draw a line to, you know, right away, this is where you go for your
Wow.
provisional ballot.
Allison, I just didn't really pay attention. Did we have those orange tablecloths for the provisional table?
Yeah.
We did.
Each
Oh, I
one?
like that.
Yeah.
I've seen that.
Yeah. I saw that, yeah.
Can we go back for a minute to the question of the residence requirement for same-day registration? There's an old adage about, you know, there may be even more opinions on the number of lawyers, and we have quite a few around this table. But if I read this statute, the statute that you showed me, Kevin, for a same-day registration says, if the voter is a resident of the precinct and is qualified to register to vote, and you underlined is qualified to register to vote, then the election judge shall, and it's issued them, you know, et cetera. When you go to, that's in 3306. In 3102, entitled Qualifications for Voter Registration, it says, except as provided in subsection B of this section, an individual, and subsection B is disqualified individual, which doesn't, this is not what we're talking about here. It says an individual may become registered to vote if the individual is a citizen of the United States, is at least 16 years old, is a resident of the state as of the day the individual seeks to register. And number 4, registers pursuant to this title. Now, the early voter registration that it's, you know, you have to do by 21 days is in this title, but the same day registration is also in this title. So to me, that would suggest that as of the day the individual seeks to register would control, and as of the day the individual seeks to register is today. So before we conclude that we need to have a 21-day, I mean, I realize that we don't necessarily want to give legal opinions around this table at this moment. Or at least I should say, we may want to give them, but we don't want to confirm them until we've done the research and, you know, and see what other people are doing. But the way I read that, you know, if you have to be a resident as of the day the individual seeks to register, someone who's registering today, that would be, I would think that rule would apply to them.
But we can talk about it.
Okay.
Okay, any other question? I have a motion to adjourn the meeting, special meeting.
I move we adjourn.
I'll second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you so very
Okay.
much.
Thank you. Allison.
Go visit the war center. I mean,
Yeah, no, I want to.
it's very impressive.